Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the Extra Mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now, your host, Jackson Mummy, owner of the Celebration Bar Review.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is your host, Jackson Mummy. Really glad you're with us today. This is a special episode. This is episode 150. And wow, that just is a mind blower to me. Want to talk a little bit about what we've done in 150 episodes today, but we've got a really special interview to share with you as well. And as always, I want to just invite you to consume this content one of a couple of different ways. You can certainly listen to this as a podcast on Apple iTunes or on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Or if you'd prefer to watch the video of the entire broadcast, you can do that by going to celebrationbarreview.com/150. Again, that's celebrationbarreview.com/150, and you can watch the video version of all of today's goings on. Goings on? I don't know. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm just so excited about episode 150. When I started this podcast was in July of 2015, and I had really very little idea about what the podcast was or what it might be or where we would go with it. I knew that I wanted to share some of the video messages that I'd been providing to students and others, some of our YouTube work, and just generally some thoughts about what was going on. I had a feeling a couple of years ago that the bar exam was about to go through some significant changes, and I wanted to be able to guide my audience and my listeners through some of those changes, prepare them for that, and give them a chance to be successful. I also thought it would be a great way to share the incredible stories that I get from our students who are successful. You know, one of the really interesting things about the work that I do is that I get to hear all of these really, truly wonderful, incredible journeys that people go on to be successful on the exam. And most people, candidly, don't want to share that in public. And I understand that. It's private, it's personal. Sometimes these victories come at the end of a very long series of frustrations and setbacks along the way, and not everyone wants to share that. However, there are some people who have been so generous with their time and their energy and their willingness to come forward and let me interview them, let me put their story out in the world to share a little bit of their journey with other people. And as I was getting ready for today's episode, I went back and just did a quick count through the 150 episodes. And our interview today will actually be our 38th interview with passing bar review students. And that's really remarkable to me because it represents just a fraction of the people that we work with, but it's such a journey that these people have been on, and it represents virtually every circumstance, I think, that you could see. We've got people from all walks of life, from literally around the world. We have people who are first-time takers, people who are repeat bar takers, people who just went through an unspeakable tragedy, loss of family members, losing their jobs, marital problems. I mean, you name it, probably it's happened and somebody has talked about it on these podcasts. If you are looking for some inspiration, I really invite you to go on our podcast webpage. You could find that at celebrationbarreview.com. There's a link at the top for podcasts. Just click on that and scroll back through all of the episodes, and show notes are there. And just find some interviews. They are amazing. And we actually started doing interviews in the very first few episodes that we began with the series. There are also lots of episodes where I've talked about different tips and techniques and tricks that I think make a difference on the bar. I've talked about the bar as it has been evolving and the things that I've seen going on. I've talked about some of the scams that I think are out there that are being perpetrated on bar takers by a lot of folks. Some big box bar reviews, some law schools, some bar examiners. I mean, we've had it all. We've had bar examiners admitting mistakes. We've had law schools, being faced with the reality of the kind of games that some of them were playing. And we've talked about all of that. And I hope that in the years to come, we'll continue to do that we'll continue to shine the light on what's going on in the bar exam, to give you the truth, as I see it at least, and give you an opportunity to have something to think about. But most importantly, to give you the guidance and the encouragement that you need to be successful in taking your own bar exam. To those of you that have sent me comments or called me or sent emails and said that you have seen or heard or responded to some part of a podcast episode. Thank you very much. That means the world to me. It lets me know that we really are reaching an audience. And frankly, our audience has grown exponentially. I would never have imagined the kind of daily download numbers that we get today when we started back a couple of years ago. And frankly, a couple of years ago isn't all that long. So I'm a little blown away by all of that. But in any event, I'm really thankful because without your support, without your listening and watching, certainly we wouldn't have an audience and we wouldn't have a podcast to offer. Now, as I said, we've got a good interview for you today with a woman who took the bar with Celebration Bar Review twice, 11 years apart, 2 different jurisdictions, and passed. And I want to tell you more about her story in a moment. But before I do that, I do want to invite all of you who are preparing for the bar exam in February 2018 or July 2018 to join us this Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern for our special live masterclass. It's called How to Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. This is the new way to study and pass the bar. I'm going to be sharing with you 4 steps to passing the bar. This is material that we've been offering. It's free. We've had thousands of people go through this course, and it's been life-changing for many of them, and I know it can be that way for you as well. You do need to register in advance, and you can do that in one of a couple of ways. If you're watching this podcast today on the video, just scroll down the page, you'll see a link, and you can register right there. If you're listening to this podcast, you can go to celebrationbarreview.com, click on the button you'll see on the homepage there for this Thursday's event, and we'll get you registered that way. Or if you prefer to text message your registration, you can do that. Text the phrase "Next Bar Exam" to the number 33444. Again, that's "Next Bar Exam" to the number 33444. And if this Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern does not work for you, or you just can't wait that long, we have an on-demand version of the same class, and all you have to do is go to our webpage again. Just scroll down just under the live button. You will see the on-demand version. Click there, and you can schedule your own showing of the material. I like to say that the magic happens live. I hope you'll join me live. But if you just can't wait or Thursday doesn't work, then by all means jump on to the on-demand version and get that information. It can really be a game changer for you when you're studying and preparing for the bar exam. Now, you'll notice that I didn't say that this webinar was for people taking the July 2017 exam. As we're recording, and when this podcast comes out, we'll actually be at about 40 days until the exam. And candidly, that's not really enough time, in my view, for most people to adequately prepare for the test. So if you're someone that's taking the July 2017 exam, well, the things that I'm talking about there would be incredibly valuable. I'm not certain that you're going to be able to put them into use in the short time that you've got, and I would just use some discretion as to whether or not you want to spend that time with me now, or wait, get your results and see where you are later, and then if you unfortunately need to be taking the bar again, then I would certainly invite you to come along. But certainly if you're taking the exam in 2018, this is the time for you to be considering how to get started, and you should begin now, certainly for the February 2018 exam. So I hope you'll join me this Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, How to Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. Well, I do want to jump into our interview today with Amanda Sawyer. I think you're going to find it really a terrific interview. Amanda took the Florida bar with us 11 years ago, and she passed. And then 3 children and a cross-country move later, she found herself in Colorado, faced with having to take the bar again. And Colorado is a uniform bar exam, or UBE jurisdiction. And so Amanda came back to us to prepare once again for a new exam, the UBE. In the midst of her studies, taking care of 3 young, active children, she had lots of responsibilities. I think she said she was the cookie mom for one of her kids. And if you've ever been a cookie mom or around a cookie mom, that is no small task. On top of all that, she had some significant health problems that hit her during her studies, debilitating health problems. And it would have been enough, I think, for a lot of people to have just said, you know what, I'm just going to give up. There's no reason for me to try this. Why should I put myself through it? But that's not Amanda. She stuck with it. She hung in there. She worked her way through it, and she passed on her first try the uniform bar exam. And so I want you to hear her story in her own words. She's really a delight to talk to, and I think you're going to enjoy it as much as I enjoyed speaking with her. So let's go ahead and jump into today's interview with a successful bar exam taker, twice now, Amanda Sawyer. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to Hanging Out with the Successful Bar Exam Takers. And we have a really fun call today. One of my students that I really enjoyed working with, and I've had the chance to work with a couple of times, Amanda Sawyer. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
Well, great. Amanda, you're like now a two-timer. It's not exactly like the five-time club on Saturday Night Live, but you've got the two-time with Celebration Bar Review. You passed the Florida bar exam with us back in, what year was it?
In February of 2006.
Okay, February 2006. And then just now in February of 2017, so 11 years later?
11 years.
You passed the uniform bar exam in Colorado, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I take particular pride in this because I am a native Coloradan, whatever that means. And so we had the opportunity during our conversations a lot to sort of reminisce about the old days in Colorado. So that's very cool. So now you're part of the bar that contains all of my family and sisters. And yeah.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Not quite yet. I've still got the MPRE in August.
Okay. So we got one more step before you actually get into the bar itself.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, congratulations to you on passing the UBE. It's got to be a great feeling.
It is. I'm so relieved. I'm over the moon.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the UBE and what that process was like, but I'd like to kind of back up a little bit because it's not often that we get to talk to somebody who's taken the bar a couple of times over this many years with us and had success in a couple of jurisdictions. How did you first come to find us? Do you remember back in 2005, 2006?
So I took the bar exam in July of 2005 and failed it through a big box bar review course. And I mean, the short and sweet version is that it didn't click for me. I sat there watching videos and it didn't, in a classroom, and I didn't get it and I didn't care. And I had such bad test anxiety and there was no one to talk to about it. There was no, support network. It was just literally like, sit in class, watch the videos, do your homework, and then come back again the next day and do it all over again. So, and it didn't work for me. It just wasn't what I needed. So, I found you online. Like I was just searching around on the internet, desperately trying to find something that was more personal than, just a big review class. And I found you and, started, in January of 2006 and just kind of the way your review works and the mentorship through our meetings, it clicked for me. It worked for me. It made it understandable and manageable, and it just really brought down my test anxiety to a level where I could actually function and learn something.
Yeah. And so then you went in and you took the Florida exam again, passed first time through with us in that setting. Okay. Yes. So now this is pre-children, right? Right out of law school?
This is pre all responsibility. I got my MBA at the same time I got my law degree. So I had a semester of business school to finish from August to December of 2005. And then, I had literally just finished school when I came to you in January of 2006.
Okay. And where'd you go to law school?
American University in D.C.
Okay. So that other law school in D.C.
Exactly. That other one.
Says the Georgetown guy, because he's just got to be that way. Okay. So, and we're going to use a term today that you coined, or at least for me, called adulting. So this is before you started adulting. Is that right?
This is long before I started adulting. And I mean, I had all the time in the world to focus on studying for the bar exam and passing the bar exam the first time.
Yeah. And that was a great feeling to get through the Florida bar. And what did you do after becoming a member of the Florida bar?
Well, 5 days after I passed the Florida bar exam, my husband was transferred for his job to California, where I did not take the bar exam.
Yeah, which I think probably was a wise decision, particularly in light of what we now know about California. But okay.
Seriously. Yes. So I went inactive in Florida almost immediately after I passed the bar exam, which was incredibly frustrating. It was just bad timing, but you got to go where the job is. So there I went.
Yeah. And over the next decade, we're going to fast forward here. You started adulting, and that meant some babies along the way, right?
Yes, exactly. So instead of working in law when I was in California, I worked in sales. And then I had 3 kids. So I had 3 kids in 18 months.
Whew.
I know. So I had an older one, and then I have twins. They're now, I still have an 8-year-old and twin 7-year-olds. And I know nobody does that on purpose, just in case you were wondering.
Yeah.
And so yes, I did a lot of adulting. I have a lot of responsibility, and my husband and I relocated back to Denver, which is where we're from,
Okay.
about a year ago.
Okay. So, like many Californians, you fled for the sanctity and sanity of Colorado.
And affordability, yes.
Yes, which people in Colorado will constantly say, yeah, keep those Californians out. We got enough people here. But Colorado is a great place to live, but it's also a state that's become part of the uniform bar exam, rather than the Colorado bar, which is what most of us had to deal with, in the olden days when dinosaurs roamed the earth. So here you are, all these years later, and you found us again to think about the bar. And what was your thought process at that point about going back to take another bar exam 11 years later?
So, well, that's a great question, because I literally had not thought about the law in 11 years. And when we moved back here, and, I got kind of through the summer with my kids home, and then they went back to school in the fall. And I just started, really settling in and thinking, what am I going to do moving forward? What am I going to, where am I going to work? And how is this going to kind of look as my kids get older and don't need me as much anymore? And the first thing I realized is that, when you have a law degree, if you're not licensed in the state where you live, it looks a little weird. Like people when you go to interviews and stuff, they want to know, why don't you practice law? Why aren't you, a member of the bar here or whatever? And so I kind of knew that the first thing I was going to need to do as a step one in order to, become professional here in the state of Colorado is take the bar exam.
Okay.
And I was not happy about that at all.
Yeah. And I remember our first couple of calls, you were, I think it's fair to say you were pouting. Is that
Yeah. Exactly. I was not a fan. I did not want to take the bar exam again. I didn't have time to take the bar exam, I thought.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. You've got 3 children under the age of 9. I think you were the Girl Scout cookie mom, is that correct?
I'm the Girl Scout leader, yep, for our brownie troop. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so anybody that's been a brownie mom or a cookie mom or dad, I suppose, knows that, only the sainted souls get to do this.
True.
What was a day like for you with the kids and the family and studying?
So it depended on the day. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had to be so much more flexible than I ever, my personality is just not really flexible like that. And it was kind of a growing experience for me to have to do this. Because, my kids get up at 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and then we make breakfast and we get ready for school and make sure that our shoes are tied and our hair is brushed and our clothes are on and our jackets and we're in Colorado. So snow boots and hats and mittens and scarves and all of these things for 3 kids. And then we would pack lunches, et cetera. You can see where this is going, right? Mm-hmm. And then they would go to school at 9 a.m. I would drop them off. And then I would immediately come back to my house and I would sit down at my computer and I would study. I would watch videos, I would do the practice questions, I would do practice essays, I would have conference calls with you, literally until 3:30 p.m. when I went to pick them up. And sometimes during videos, I would be cooking dinner, putting, dinner in the crock pot while I was listening to, criminal procedure lecture, or folding laundry while I was listening to property or whatever.
Yeah, I'm really very flexible, folks. You can take me almost anywhere. Okay.
And you're so funny because I know you're stop multitasking, people on your videos. Stop multitasking. And you know what? I wanted to stop multitasking, but if I didn't do the laundry, no one was going to do the laundry. And if I didn't get dinner on the table, we were going to starve. And there were days when we all just did the best we could.
Right. And we're going to come to some other challenges you had in a minute. But one of the early on, you were kind of feeling frustrated. There was all these things going on, and you said, I'm tired of having to do all this adulting. I just want to be able to study. Right? Is that
exactly?
Yeah,
exactly.
And I thought that was so honest and legitimate that it's just sometimes you just want to be able to put aside all of those other responsibilities, but you couldn't do it. And so one of the interesting things to me was how dedicated you were and how persistent you were about getting this work done. Now, you chose our personal mentored course. Can you talk a little bit about why you selected that course? It's not our least expensive course. So why did you make the extra investment?
Well, so I have to be honest. I did not start in your personal course.
Right.
When I
That's
first purchased it,
Right.
I purchased the basic course, and
That's
I just thought, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do this in my spare time, and it's going to be fine. And I was a disaster.
Okay.
I mean, after not having practiced law in 11 years and not even having thought about it, not having written an essay, not having, any of that stuff, not thought in, FLA form or anything like that, I was a mess. My essays were completely useless. I knew probably after my first essay that there was no way I was going to pass the bar exam without help. And so I upgraded to, your personal mentored course. And it's the only reason I passed.
Okay. So, you and I talked probably 15 or so times. We did video conferences.
Yeah.
I'd catch you in the middle of your multitasking or whatever might be going on. What was it like to go back and start doing this work again and to write again and to kind of reacquaint yourself with the approach of studying for the bar?
I have to be honest, it was hard. Mm-hmm. It was really hard. There were especially at the beginning, some serious days of tears. I was just so frustrated, and it seemed so impossible, and it seemed so overwhelming. And, instead of studying like I should have been, I would look at my calendar and time out the days that I had and be like, I don't have time for this. I'm going to run out. And it was really a hard transition. Mm-hmm. But, right about the time that I was freaking out the worst and thinking maybe this wasn't a good idea, my husband looked at me and said, why did you do this in the first place then? Mm-hmm. Which was such a good question because I had to really think about it. And I'm so glad I did, because at the end of the day, and this was actually my biggest fear going into the bar exam, which we talked about. I wanted my kids to see me pass the bar exam. I wanted my kids to stand there and watch me get sworn in to the Colorado bar, because I put a lot of money into law school and I put a lot of effort into law school, and I'm a smart person and a capable person. And I know that professionally it's a box I need to check in order to move forward. And I wanted my kids to see me do it and know that they could do it if they put their mind to it, no matter how much hard work, it took. But also that was really hard because I didn't want them to have to learn the lesson if I failed, that all the hard work in the world sometimes doesn't, work out and you have to try again.
Yeah. I'm not sure there's anything more profound than you can say beyond that. I often say to people that the modeling we do for our kids is probably the most lasting impact, and the passing or failing the bar is almost secondary to what you show your kids. And what you were really demonstrating to your children is that you can overcome these hurdles. You can challenge yourself. You can take on things that are scary. The tests don't have to overwhelm you and beat you down. Those are lessons that I suspect they'll have all their lives as a result of what you did.
I think so.
That's pretty powerful. I mean, I think in some ways that may be the most powerful thing that you can offer them in the context of this particular work. So, I would congratulate you on certainly doing that.
Thank you.
We haven't really talked about all the challenges you face because in addition to being cookie mom and all of the other things going on with the kids and the family, you had some significant health challenges during this process, right?
Yes. So, so it was Christmas season, right? And I've got 2 8-year-olds and a 7-year-old. So, that meant putting on a full Christmas. And I woke up on Christmas Eve with strep. And it wasn't just strep. It was antibiotic resistant strep. It took 2 weeks and 4 different antibiotics before they finally figured out what was going to work to get rid of it. And I was sick, really, really, really sick. And my kids were home from school, and my mom was in town visiting, and my, husband had stuff at work, and it was New Year's, and it was all of these things. And right about the time, and then I gave strep to 2 of my kids. And right about the time that I was starting to get over the strep and feel better and feel like I was going to get back into things, I bent over to zip up my daughter's sweater, and I herniated 2 discs in my back.
Wow.
Which was unbelievable. I don't know if if you've ever done that before, Jackson, but it was unbelievably painful. So then that was MRIs and x-rays and doctor appointments and physical therapy for 3 months. And literally, when you do that, you can't sit comfortably, especially not for like hours on end when you need to study for the bar exam.
Right. We had some walk and talks. I recall you were sort of,
yes.
Okay, I'm going to walk while we're talking here because I can't sit for an entire half-hour conference.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and you were in excruciating pain, really, for a lot of that time, right?
It was awful. It was awful.
Yeah. So most people, I think, Amanda, at that point would have said, you know what? No mas, I give up. There's no reason to be doing this. I'm sick. I've hurt myself. The kids need me. My family needs me. It's snowy and cold. What the heck? I've got a nice house, and, why am I doing this? So why did you do it at that point? Why did you keep going?
Honestly, it all came down to, 2 things. Number one, if, I thought Christmas break was bad, there's no possibility that I was going to take the bar exam in July when my kids are home for the summer. Right. So I knew it was kind of now or never. Mm-hmm. So I just had to kind of persevere. And also I kept going back to this will all be worth it when it's over. This is such a short period of time in my life, even though it feels like forever. And I'm so miserable right now. This will be over in a month. This will be over in 6 weeks. This will be over in 2 weeks, Right. And so I just, literally, I don't know. I mean, there were days that I just kept going.
Yeah. And then you did an interesting thing, a small thing, I think, but to me it was kind of interesting. Folks, you may notice there's a little tint of purple.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that just a little bit?
Well, so I do have purple hair. I know there are not very many purple-haired attorneys on this planet, but I'm definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. And I just was so overwhelmed with being an adult. And I was like, that's it. Forget it. I'm done. I'm done adulting. I'm dyeing my hair purple.
There you go, folks.
And I did.
Yeah. I talk sometimes about rewarding yourself for these accomplishments as you're going along. You hadn't taken the exam yet. You didn't know the results, but you were willing to reward yourself for just hanging in there, for just getting it done. And I thought that was the turning point actually for you. When I saw the purple hair, what I actually thought was, okay, she's actually doing some self-care here. Instead of being mom to everybody else exclusively, this was the point where you, Amanda, started to say, you know what, I'm worth it. I'm going to do something for me because this is important. And I thought that at that moment was kind of a quiet, you didn't make a big deal about it. You didn't come in and say, look at my purple hair. I was like, I think your hair's purple.
You noticed that your hair is purple? You did one day.
Yeah.
Did you know that your hair is purple?
I just, I'm that kind of guy. And so I thought, okay, this means something because it meant that you were taking control and ownership, that you weren't a victim of this process. And I often say that the people who are successful on the bar are the people that move from victimization to just feeling like they own their own circumstances. And I thought that, you could have given up. You could have been Calamity Jane, oh my God, everything's gone wrong. And instead you were saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to hang in here. I'm going to do what I can do and go in and take the test. So let's talk a little bit about what it was like to actually go in and take the bar. Now it's 11 years later, you're going back in.
Right.
And sitting. What was that like?
It was weird. Mm-hmm. It was very, very weird. In some ways, it was like deja vu, right? It was like I had never left that room in Florida. And in other ways, it was I had a lot of stress and anxiety around what is this going to be like? And the timing and do I have enough pencils? And, Colorado's kind of crazy with the things you are and aren't allowed to take into the room and the things you have to wear. And
I'm guessing legal marijuana is not one of the things you bring into the room.
Definitely not, but apparently one of the things you bring into the parking lot of the bar exam, according to some other people I took the bar with. So
I'd like you to tell that story because I think it's a great one.
Oh my gosh. So I'm sitting there. Okay, well, let me tell you this. So the bar exam was given about 45 minutes from my house, and it's February, right? So like on a beautiful day in February, that's not a problem at all. But if it's snowing, there's no guarantee that you can get to the actual bar exam. So I stayed in a hotel right there. It was worth the extra money. Get away from my kids, get away from my husband, just focus. So it's about 7:30 in the morning. I drive over to the event center. I park. And I'm sitting there with my book in my hand where I'm doing practice questions to like get ready. Mm-hmm. And it was 7:42 a.m. And I can tell you this because it was so crazy what happened. I had to look at the clock and see. So I look up and the guy who's parked directly across from me in the parking lot, parking space. So I'm pulled in one way and he's pulled in the other way. And he's literally facing me. Smoking a bong. At 7:42 a.m. before the bar exam. I swear to God, this is a true story. And like, I'm not kidding you. It was not like a little one hitter. It was not like a, pipe. No, a full bong in the front seat of his car at 7:42 a.m. before the bar exam, which is just not something I was expecting at all. But I thought to myself, all right, like the curve, I feel kind of good about the curve after this.
And I am reasonably certain that was not one of our students. So, well, there you go, folks. I mean, only in Colorado, and I say that as, a former
lovingly as you can. Exactly.
Okay, so you are not stoned. You go in and you take you take the 2 days of the exam. It's kind of a weird experience to be back. A lot's changed in 10 or 11 years, obviously.
Yeah, lots changed. And also, in Florida, it's a very different structure to the bar because you have 3 essays in the morning and it's an hour per essay. And then the afternoon is multiple choice. And then you do the MBE the second day. So to do the UBE in Colorado and have the 6 essays in the morning and then the 2 MPTs in the afternoon it's a lot. The law in Florida is very specific. So to know that is a little bit, is hard. But the sheer volume of law that you have to know to take the UBE is not overwhelming and not doable, obviously, but it's a lot.
Right. And did you had worked and done all the practice essays, you'd done some performance tests in practice, you'd done multi-state work, you and I had conference. So you're going in pretty prepared. I mean, under the circumstances, I think you're feeling like, okay. But now you got to wait for results.
Yes.
Yeah. What's that like?
It's long. And, it was fine. I would say like the first couple of days, it took me a little while to ramp down from that, kind of test. I call it test mode where you're like, really excited and motivated and focused. And then you kind of have to ramp down a little bit. But after that, in Colorado, I don't think it's 10 weeks before you hear back. I don't think they ever do it shorter than that.
Right.
So it was a long haul. And for a while I would like forget about it or just kind of, relax. And then, I would have dreams at night. So like probably once a week. And they got worse as the date got closer where, I would be taking the test and I would take the same question over and over and over again. Or, I would just be sitting in the test room and I would get, they would tell me I passed before I even left in some of the dreams, or they would tell me I failed before I even left in some of the dreams. It was constantly in the back of my mind, but I had so much other stuff going on that I just kind of had to let it be what it was until the day the results came out.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so results come out. What's that like?
Pretty great, I have to say. So in Colorado, they like publicly shame their attorneys. They don't, there's no numbers. They just print people's names. It is a list on the internet. Yep. And it says, here are the names of the people who passed the February 2017 bar exam. And either your name is on it or it isn't. So, it was hard. Like I was at this charity luncheon a few days ahead of time with a bunch of attorneys. And we had been talking about how I had just taken the bar exam and I was going to find out in a couple of days. And they were all like, great, we'll look on that day and, be rooting for you. And I just thought to myself, oh God, like I will be so humiliated if my name is not on that list.
Right.
And then on the other hand, I was like, I'm not even sure I can look. My next door neighbor actually looked for me.
Okay, so you get the next door neighbor over to look on the computer.
Oh, no, she looked at her house and then she texted me, congratulations.
And so that's how you knew.
Yes.
So
and then I started getting emails from all these women that I had been at this luncheon a few days before, and they were like, congratulations. And I said to myself, okay, now I know from multiple sources that I've actually passed, and I went and looked for myself.
That's awesome. What'd your family have to say? What'd your kids say?
Oh, they were so excited. I told them when I picked them up from school. So I have one of my kids has special needs, and so I pick them up. It was a Thursday, and I pick them up on Thursdays, and we run as fast as we can over to the occupational therapist. So it was like they jumped in the car and they were like, "Did you pass? Did you pass?" And I said, "Yes, I passed." But I'm driving down the road, right? So there's no moment where we get to stop and hug and have that thing. Instead, there's just all this chorus of shouting from, the back of my Stylen minivan, and they were so excited. And then of course, the first thing that they say when we get to the occupational therapist, "Mommy passed the bar exam." And I'm not even sure they really, I know they don't get what that means really, but they get that it's a really big deal, which is pretty great.
It is pretty great. You are pretty great. And I'm so proud of you. It's been, sort of this decade-long process of getting to work with you and then getting to work with you again. And I'm very flattered that you would think of us, a second time and come back. What advice or comments would you have for people? I know there are a lot of people who are watching and listening who are trying to figure out how to balance and juggle all the things going on in their lives. What would you say to them about this?
That's a really good question. Honestly, my best advice is to just put one foot in front of the other and to be good to yourself, because you and I talked about this, I think, a couple of times in our mentor meetings. I was not going to get through all the material. I was not going to get it all done. I did not have time to go back and refresh and take all of the, every question that you guys offer in your amazing bar review course. And I just had to go do the best I could. And that would be my advice for everyone. Just accept that, if you have a ton of stuff that you're facing and you don't have the bandwidth or the time or whatever, then you don't have the bandwidth or the time or whatever, and just do the best you can. One foot in front of the other, breathe, and have, faith that you are smart and you are capable and you are going to be fine. And you just need to keep going.
I think that's great advice. And, it's spoken from somebody who did just that. I mean, you're talking from experience. And so that's part of what makes this story so very, very wonderful. Well, I'm really pleased for you and excited for you, anxious to see what you do when you do become a member of the bar, get past the MPRE and get all that done. But, I just want to sort of wrap up by commenting about the example that you set for your family. I do think that that's probably one of the most extraordinary things that any of us can do, is to show our families that there's no hurdle that we're not willing to challenge and take on. And you did it with all of these things happening. And, I know that you inspired your family, but I also know you're going to inspire a lot of people watching this interview today.
I hope so, because, I think the bar exam at the end of the day is a test. It is just a test. It's a hard test, but it is just a test.
Yeah.
And you just have to remember that and keep perspective.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that we could be on this journey with you. Thanks for selecting us. Thanks for being part
thank
of
you,
our
because
family.
I could not have done it without you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, we're going to stop there. I want to just thank everybody who's been watching and part of our audience. Thank you, Amanda. Best wishes to everybody. Yeah. And stay warm, dry, happy, and adultish and adulting as you go along. And we'll see you all again on the next episode in a real short time. Thanks. Bye-bye. Well, that's our interview for today. I hope you enjoyed the talk with Amanda. She's amazing, isn't she? And a great, great story. Now, as always, again, I want to invite you to join me this Thursday. That would be June 15th at 3 p.m. Eastern for our 90-minute free masterclass, How to Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. You could register on this page if you're watching the video, or by going to celebrationbarreview.com and clicking on the button to make sure that you get your spot. And we'll see you on Thursday. Hope everybody's having a great week. Again, just want to say thanks for all of you who've been loyal listeners to the show. I also want to give a shout out to my assistant and video and audio editor, June Foray, who does a great job with these podcasts and putting them all together and helping keep me from going off the rails. But the rest of my staff, my editors, all of the people that work with us, our tech folks, Matt Chapman, our senior editor, Megan Saya, and of course my wife Sarah, who puts up with me with all this craziness and wonders, why in the world does he keep that door closed and talk to himself for so many hours? No, she actually knows what I'm doing. So in any event, I just really appreciate all of the people that come together to help make Celebration Bar Review and the Extra Mile podcast as special as I hope it is for you. Hope you have a great week. Good studies. We'll be back again next week with another interview talking about some great experiences that people are having and the successes that they can have even in these difficult times with the bar exam. So make it a good week, and we'll see you along the extra mile and on the pass list. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at www.celebrationbarreview.com.